So welcome everyone to another episode of our career webinars. Today we have an expert insight series. That means we brought an expert for you so you get to ask a lot of questions. And today what we're going to explore, the topic we're going to dive into is career building as a generalist. And for that we have Anna Kaplun. And what are we going to explore today? So we're going to learn a little bit about what's a generalist, the benefits of being a generalist, Anna's experience as a generalist, and much more. I don't want to tell you more, guys, because the idea is that she herself tell us everything. And for you to know, Anna is a digital marketing professional and senior operations strategist at Seeds in Buenos Aires, Argentina. She combines social science insights with tech expertise and has led projects in website development, data-driven culture, marketing strategy, and revenue operations. With a bachelor's in social science and a master's in business and technology, her experience spans government, education, technology, and startups, showcasing the power of a generalist approach in today's jobs market. So welcome, Anna. I hope you're having a good time in Buenos Aires.
Thank you, Mir. Okay, I'll go ahead and share my screen. Thank you for that introduction. Right. So I'll start. You may be wondering, first of all, what's a generalist? And before I give the definition, I want to contextualize it in the job market and career development world. So when you talk about a generalist, we're talking about a professional who has a generalist perspective and activity and development in their career. So a generalist is an expert learner, a problem solver, and a big picture thinker who can effectively apply all of these strengths across varied fields and roles. And they are skilled at spotting relevant patterns in complexity and are often empathetic and future-focused. This is also something that's pretty hard to define because, of course, then every generalist is its own person with their own skill set. But there are some things that are really common among all generalists, and you may be thinking like, why is a generalist good at spotting relevant patterns? Like that's something so specific about someone's mindset. But when you think about it, someone who has broad experience and who has knowledge about very different fields and it's a very interdisciplinary person, it makes sense that that person is able to make sense out of chaos because they are so used to seeing so many different sources of information applied to a lot of different scenarios. So they start being good at understanding information regardless of the context that information is coming from. So I think this is the best. This is by Erica Warp. She's a neuroscientist and she's part of a community called a Generalist World, which I recommend and I think it's very good. For me, this is the best definition I've seen still for what's a generalist. So currently, the dichotomy is generalists versus specialists. In today's world, in the job market, there are like job huntings, specialists that will go for a generalist, some that want specialists. There is no right or wrong. I want to start by saying this. A lot of you guys will end up being specialists at their own area, like the medical billing specialist. That's a very specialist and a very valuable thing to know and to develop your career in. But then there's also people that are going to end up being generalists and they're also much needed and very valuable. So there is no good or bad, and I want to start, and that's the basis of this conversation. But in my case, I ended up realizing that I'm a generalist, and I realized that a lot of people are, and it has a little bit of stigma to it. So that's what I want to unstigmatize today. So while a specialist is someone that knows a lot, and when I mean a lot, it's a lot about a specific subject or a specific set of subjects, a generalist is someone who knows also a lot because it's not an unfocused person. It's not a mediocre person. It's someone who knows their thing about a broader set of topics. They know maybe in less depth, but they know a lot about more areas. And a specialist, since they are a specialist in that area, they will be continuously exposed to the same problem and the same context. So they will become amazing at solving that problem. Meanwhile, generalists will get exposed to a lot of different problems from a lot of different industries. And in the end, like the result of that equation is just getting good at problem solving, regardless of the context. Also, a generalist, because of that varied experience, has a very good ability of bridging and connecting worlds that seem so dissimilar and that have nothing to do together, but they are able to use skills from these different worlds and make them their own and just leverage them to their full potential. And specialists have a more defined set of skills and competencies that belong to their discipline, and they are very good at them. And then generalists, as I mentioned before, they are multidisciplinary. They are experts in multiple fields, and specialists will be hired and will be sought out and looked for as an expert in that subject and in that world. Again, there's no good nor bad. You can be one and then become another, and the other way around. It's just, I think it's how life finds you and how your career happens for you.
Yeah, and I wanted to say something, Anita, on that topic, because, for instance, I studied international relations, right? And while studying, I realized, well, this is very interesting, but I'm not particularly passionate about a subject. I had colleagues who were passionate about war topics, right? Or, I don't know, development or UN. Like, they knew what they wanted, and therefore they read a lot, and many of them became specialists in international relations, right? They even went for further studies and went, and now they're analysts in world topics. In my case, I finished my degree and I said, oh, I think there are many things I like. I cannot find right away anything particularly that I want to specialize on because I like many things, right? And with time, I realized I also became a generalist. And at the beginning, I was like, do I feel comfortable with this? Because it means that basically I don't know anything in depth about nothing, or how is it? So, well, tell us a little bit about the life of my generalist.
Well, that anxiety you felt about like, so does this mean I'm never going to be good at anything? I'm not going to be the best at nothing? That's like, this is it. I think that has to do with the misconception there is nowadays about generalists. And I think I will explain this in a couple minutes, but I think that's changing currently. That's why I think this is such an important conversation to have right now. But honestly, being a generalist, it's not being a specialist. It's a lot more than that. These are not two poles that exist in opposition to each other. These are two completely different worlds that exist, that coexist, that need each other to exist, but you do not build yourself in opposition to the other side. So this is where the generalist value pyramid comes in, because these are the three key parts of the generalist DNA. On the basis, we have the broad expertise. For me, that has meant being a continuous learner. I think I'm a very self-taught person. I'm constantly reading, constantly doing courses. I'm always, and it doesn't have to be formal education. It can also be just having conversations with people and
because
trying
you studied
to
social science, right, Anita?
Yeah.
So
I
social
studied,
science, very broad,
yeah,
like a
very broad.
combination of many things, right?
Yeah. I will go through my own journey in a minute. But first I want you to get the concept. So that the base is having deep knowledge and deep curiosity. I think this has to be out of joy. That's how you end up in this situation. You are curious and you want to know everything and you don't want to just stick to one thing. So you have very diverse skills and you are able to apply them to real world scenarios, like very randomly. I remember myself, I would learn about, I had Latin American history of 19th century, and then I would be chatting with my friends and one was fighting with her partner, and I would apply like something out of a war I learned in class to a relationship. Like that's how my mind was working even before I knew it was a thing that I could make money off, to be honest. And then you are this, and this is the adaptability. You can just like this switch, but your backpack of knowledge and tools stays the same. You always carry the same backpack everywhere, and that's the value of it, that you just take it everywhere with you. There's not a situation where you are shifting these skills. You are applying them everywhere. Then you have the heart, and it's the mindset. And you have to be willing and courageous to allow yourself to bring a very random problem solving skill to the table and be proud of that. And you have to trust that you are, for example, recognizing a pattern that comes from a very different discipline and apply it to business. And also, and this has been very real for me, the thriving in ambiguous situations. I honestly feel very comfortable in the chaos, and instantly my mind has this like addiction to try to make sense out of it and try to impart sense and peacefulness of that chaos to my team. Because for me, chaos is just like a line that's not straight, but I see the points and I can connect them. And then at the point, we have emotional and social intelligence. Since being a generalist, it's kind of a weird breed, and you've been in very different industries with very different people, you will learn along that, like your development, to talk to very different people. You will learn to collaborate with very different people in very different industries that have very different contact codes. And that will be the thing that you will have to leverage to, if you want to be a manager, if you want to be senior, if you want to do the like corporate ladder, even if it's in a startup, there's always a ladder. And if you want that, that's what you will have to leverage. And that's what will make you go from just a person that knows things to someone that can solve a problem to another person. You have to be very acute and fine-tune your ear at realizing what the business, user, your team needs, what's the pain point. And generally, like even if you're a specialist, that's just people in work, you have to become good at trying to make people make their best performance. Like you have to sprinkle your spark to everyone, and that will make you spark more. I think that's a good ethos to have while working. I think there's a question in the chat.
Comments. People are commenting while you're
Okay.
sharing.
So wait, did I skip something?
I don't think so.
No. Okay, it's okay. So what do you do when you realize you're a generalist? You have your DNA, you're starting to sense, I may be one of those people that just know a lot about different things, and I don't want to be in one straight line. So this is where the misconceptions come in. And you have to become a marketing expert of yourself. And this is the best advice I've gotten, like I had many mentors. Mir was my mentor at some point. Then I went to other professional coaches that were more aligned to the industries I was interested in. But everything it's about positioning yourself. So you have to know how to speak and how to portray yourself not as someone who's just like all over the place. This is not a messy person. This is not a messy and focused professional. It's someone who is consciously and intentionally mixing different backgrounds and expertise to create a unique value that you won't find in another person, because each one has their own formula of knowledge and skills. And that's unique. And that's unique to everyone, not only generalists. But for a generalist, it's a little bit hard because there won't be a job post saying, we want a generalist. You have to go and prove that you can do the job they are looking for. And then that ability to spot trends and patterns is your biggest friend into anticipating the challenges. Like, since you have a lot of experience, varied experience, use that to your favor and become the person in your company, in your study group, wherever room you are, the one to try to be before the problem and anticipate the challenges. And another thing that has been very important for me, and this is more of a personal tip, is that as I mentioned before, I'm very curious, and I take every source of knowledge. For me, is a valid source of knowledge. If I heard it on the radio, if it was a podcast, if it was a TikTok, if it was an essay, if it was in the newspaper, a book, whatever, my ear is always up and listening. So you have to be able to prove your knowledge. And that's sadly just how the market works. So keep tabs on how you are curating your learning experiences. And that's a very important thing for me. Like, I don't let just, there's a concept like Googleifying your mind. Like, we need to know a definition because we're writing something, we Google it, we use the word, and then we throw that content out. This is about being more mindful about what you're learning and how you frame it in your personal, unique formula of a person. How's that knowledge shaping you and how that's helping you move forward or move sideways, whatever. It's just keeping tabs and being able to prove, like, I learned this from here and I thought it was interesting because ABC, and I connected with that. And this is not, you will never have to say this at an interview or anywhere, but it's good for you to start learning how your brain wired you that way. Where is all of this information coming from? So the benefits of being a generalist. The first of all, and I mentioned this before, that the world is changing. I mean, you guys all know that. Like, look at us. You're doing an online internship. We're doing a webinar. This was, I'm very young, and this was still like unthought of 20 years ago. So we are moving from like the knowledge economy, where the best value was investing in the employees or in anyone's knowledge and for them to use that knowledge and give you more value, to the adaptive economy. Because right now everyone has access to all the information. And not only that, we're having machines, computers, as you guys all know and must use, that do the tasks for you. So in the end, if we get a little bit Darwinian here, in the evolution of the market, and this is a personal opinion, but we will have to start learning very fast, adapting very fast, and applying all of that even faster to just stay on top and to just be and exist in the market, in the economy. So we have to start being careful. There's a lot of depressing numbers about this, I'll be honest. But like right now, there's people doing courses in university that in 5 years, they will have to relearn the skill. That happened to me, that will happen to almost everyone. So aiming or aiding to the more generalist side of it maybe will be the only way to survive. Maybe we start all going from a more specialist oriented economy to a more generalist oriented economy. And that's a trend I'm spotting and other people are spotting. It's not the only truth. Then there's the benefit of having more transferable skills. You will be defined not by the role you're making, but as I said before, by the backpack of skills and knowledge you have on you and how you invest that in every place you go. So you take the skills with you. You are not defined by like I'm an astrophysicist with an orientation in this subtopic, which I could never be that because I'm not that smart, but it will be easier for a generalist to move to another field than for the astrophysicist with ABC minors, whatever. And there comes the flexibility also, which is you can go where your gut tells you to go, and you can satisfy your curiosities because you can always find a way to apply your different skills to very different things. And even myself, I am surprised by the way my career is going. Like, I'm like, whoa, I didn't know I would end up doing this job. I'm just letting myself be surprised by life at this point, honestly. So, and this is my truth, my way of interpreting careers for a generalist, and for everything I'm saying applies for anyone that resonates with it. But careers are not a line, are a Venn diagram. And what do I mean by that? I'll use myself as an example. As Mirta said, I studied social sciences, which in Argentina is a very new career and it's very broad. In Argentina, we are used to very specific careers. So anything that's more broad and generalist is like, oh, what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do?
Let me add something to that. Who do we have people? We have people here from the US, right? In the US, we have this, what is called a liberal arts, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but you can choose from a wide range of courses, and then you do a bachelor degree 4 years, and then later on, through a master's, you're going to specialize. And in Argentina and in the UK too. Thank you, Nadia. In Argentina, usually we go straight for the specialization path. If you want to be a lawyer, then you will study directly 4 or 5 years of law. If you want to be an accountant, then you go directly to study accountant. If you want to be a psychologist, then you go from day one to go into hard knowledge of the discipline. And when you finish 4 years, 5 years, you have your bachelor in accounting, and you are an accountant. So a broad degree for us in Latin America usually is more challenging, because it's like, okay, studied a little bit of everything. What kind of job will I look for, right? Precisely, this is what we're discussing. If I know a little bit of everything, as Anna said, no one is looking for someone who knows to do a little bit of everything, right? Like usually in a job post, you have specific skills and a specific profile. So as a generalist, you may say, how do I do it? And I think this is really interesting what Anna is sharing with that, because precisely it's okay. How can we get to this level, right? And for you, Anna, you were saying you studied social science.
I studied social sciences, and so in high school, I was already doing the social sciences orientation, and I loved it. I was doing anthropology, sociology, communication, history. Like that was my school curricula. And when I got to college, university, I have no idea what I want to do when I grow up. So I would just keep studying what I like. And so I went and I found a career, a bachelor that was literally social sciences, and that's it. And I did it out of pleasure for learning. Anyone would ask me, what are you going to do with that? I don't know, because I'm studying it because I like it. And I trust that if I like it, then I will make something valuable out of it in the future. And I loved it. And on my last semester at university, they added an entire, like a lot of subjects for technology in social sciences. And I was like, this is curious. I didn't even think of this. Like the AI hype was not quite there yet. This was 2020, 2021. It was not like today. And I signed up for all those subjects. I have never in my life had I thought about technology. I'm completely honest about this. But I suddenly felt very curious about it. I felt it in my gut. So I went for it and I really liked it. And I did a subject that was called ethics in AI and democracy. I was like, this is really cool. It was all philosophical conversations and debates and dilemmas that AI was bringing to the table, and that were impacting society. And I was like, okay, this I would gladly do. I would gladly get paid to do this. And I started going down that road. So I started reading a lot of books about technology. I did courses. I did it like a UX UI design. I did a little bit of coding. I cannot program. Like, I don't like the thought that everyone thinks you have to be a programmer to make it in life. I don't. I just did a couple subjects, courses. I loved it. I thought it's very interesting and I like the logic of it. That's it. I'm not a programmer. And then I was like, okay, I realized I don't want to be in the academic side of it. I will go more in depth when I tell you literally about my experience, but I realized I was lacking any type of management business skills. I didn't have any of that. I wasn't interested in that when I was younger. I sucked at numbers. I was like very obtuse about it. I'm not good and I don't want to learn that because I'm not good. But then I signed up for a master's in business and technology. And I had to do finance, I had to do like accounting, I had to do a lot of things there. And I ended up really liking it because I was putting it in a context of a world I liked. And that's all these very varied things that I did out of passion and out of real honest curiosity. That intersection of things then into my career. And and it's not aligned in the sense that it's not that I studied social sciences, I did something in social sciences, and then I went and moved forward like one step, linear step after another. I just followed what I was curious about that time. I know this is also a luxury. Most people don't have the time to be curious and research that curiosity, but while you can, that's what has been my motor in my development. And I was always working, but I was working at things I was curious about at that point, and I didn't care how that would translate in the future. I was like, I'm the responsible of making this experience fit in the macro story of me, not the other way around. I'm not letting an experience, a job, guide the story I do of myself. So it's in the encounter of all these very different disciplines that now I feel very comfortable about my knowledge and my skills because I can perfectly explain that I'm a mix of these things. Like this is, in a very broad way, the tracing of my knowledge. So I will get more in depth in my experience as a generalist. So as I mentioned before, I did the social sciences degree. There was on the last year this subject of AI and ethics and government. And I was incredibly interested about it. And I know I struggled a lot with networking. I didn't know how to do it. Mirta can tell you about this. I was very shy. It felt very uncomfortable for me. And it's something that you have to go through the cringe valley and experience it and go through it and just do it until it feels natural. It never feels natural, but it's just the way people, like, you have to realize that everyone's playing the same game and no one is going to judge you for joining the game with the same rules.
And let me say something here because Anita and I would go a long way because how did we meet, Anita?
She was a professor at university. I did how do you call it? An oratory?
Public speaking.
A public speaking course with Mirta. And then I really liked it. And I did like a more personalized public speaking course with her, a debate course. Then she was my mentor when I was actually considering another completely different career from the one I'm doing today. And then I didn't do it. But Mirta really helped me in that. So yeah,
and for
we
me,
go
the
along.
beauty of this is that when I met Anita, she was, this is the part where I praise you, Anita, because Anita was exceptional. I clearly saw it. That's why, that's something, a point that I want to make. It's like, don't be afraid to look for mentors, right? Because we may think like, I don't know, Anita, what is your experience? But you are at university and you may say, okay, what do I have to offer? Who can help me in my path? And maybe you have a professor you admire, but you don't really there to approach or say anything because like, okay, why? And from our side, being teachers and professors at university or high school, whatever, it's a pleasure to have people who are interested in our topics, right? So this is a great match because Anita was super interested in public speaking. I remember your speeches were amazing. And I was like, oh, this is so, for me as a teacher, as a professor, it's great to see someone who has a lot of passion. And her speeches, Anita, your speeches were so different one from another one. And I saw clearly she had a lot of interests. And that's something you can spot. And that's a skill and that's an attitude that is super important when building a career, right? Your eagerness to learn, how curious you are. And then we started, our course finished, and we started more one-on-one. And then we did a coaching, a mentoring process, just like you guys take advantage of the 2 coaching calls you have during this internship. And at the moment, I was just in this moment where you were doing, you were working for the ethics committee, and we didn't know what your career would look like, but I had absolutely no doubt that whatever you wanted to do, you could do it because you had everything. And that's something that it's really important also to own and say, hey, I have a lot of qualities, I have a lot of skills. How do I translate this into a career? And in the process, taking this also leap of faith, right? Of saying, I think I can do something, if not a lot, with all the skills, all the interests, and everything I've done through my years, even if at the moment you don't see it this clearly. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And to add to that, because I would have loved someone to say this to me, like when I was in university and when I was making my first steps, it's like, it's going to sound very Disney, but don't be afraid to shine. Don't be afraid to be the center of attention. There's a lot of times, like, especially when we are teenagers, when we are younger, like in college, the highest quality and what's most appreciated about people is their ability to blend in. The problem is, like, we come from this blending mindset. Like in high school, you don't want to call attention. In university too, you want to blend in because that's survival, right? But the second you step out into like the job market and the real world, it's everything about standing out. And it's very contradictory, and our brains take some time like adjusting to that change. But I myself, like, my mom raised me very confident. But honestly, start being the center of attention when it's rightful, and when you have a talent, a skill, just go for it. And for example, like in this public speaking course, there were a lot of people that weren't taking it seriously, and that's on them, and that's expected in life. No one's going to be passionate about the same thing. But a lot of people are, what do I need public speaking for? You know, it's not finance, whatever. But I loved it. I saw it personally, still see it as an incredible skill to have. And I was doing that as if it was like, as if my life depended on it. Like, I didn't matter that I was the only person in class taking it seriously. It was not the case. But even if it was, I wouldn't have cared. We have to start getting comfortable earlier with having the spotlight on us, because that's from until we retire, that's what will happen, and that's how you get to places. Not And you have to be able to mesh that with being shy, which I am, even if it doesn't look like it. I get very, very self-conscious about it sometimes, but it's like, there's the personal Anna and there's the professional Anna. The professional Anna knows her things, and she can be the center of attention when it's about her things. So I hope this resonates with at least a person here, and that will be enough, because it's really a shift in mindset that we are not prepared of and no one tells us about. But yeah. So I gathered like my courage, which was very small at that time, and I went to my professor of AI and ethics, and I told him, look, I really like this. I have never heard of this. Like, he was talking about AI in about AI regulation when like ChatGPT didn't even exist yet. And that was the massive inception of like popular use of AI, right? And I was so mesmerized by this. And he was like, look, I was tasked by the government to assemble the AI and ethics committee. He was like, do you want to work for free? Yes, please. Whatever. I'll take whatever. I was like, okay, you can come as my assistant, as my intern. You can just come and listen to experts speak about this, help me think, help me brainstorm, and like just get yourself in the experience. Done. I was doing it. I was so scared. I was very intimidated by everything, and I still did it because it's not about not being scared. It's about grabbing your scaredness by the hand and just going with it. I went and I really liked it, but the more I was there, I was like, I don't think I want to do this. I really like it. I love reading books about it. I love reading essays, videos, debates, everything about it. But I don't want to be in the regulating side. I want to be on the side that's actually making the technology. And I was like, okay, I will start working in more like I need to get into a startup. I need to get into someone, a young person that's making, or a young company that's making technology. But again, how will I ever match my social sciences degree? How will I ever make myself eligible to the market that I know a little bit about technology and that I'm capable of learning more? Because also an important tip, this another mentor told me this, like when you're young, the biggest asset you have is the gray matter in your brain. So it's not what you know. When you're young, no one's hiring you at 21 because of everything you know. You don't know nothing at 21. They're hiring you because of all the space and like free gigabytes you have to learn new things. And that's a very relieving thing to hear. Like, I don't have to be an expert at 21. That's impossible. Just be there and show hunger and desire to learn. So and I want you to notice how all of these experiences happen very randomly for me, because every time I was actively looking for something, things didn't show up because that's life. But when I didn't stop looking, things appeared. When I stopped looking so intensely, things appeared. So not a friend, a girl from the same course, then became a friend, from the same course than me, sent a job post to the WhatsApp group. Hey, I work for T4 Education. It's an education startup, and we're looking for interns. I was like, okay, I'll start with an internship. I did the interviews. I got in.
Anita, you remember that you seriously at a moment thought about it. Should I take it or should I not?
Yeah,
Remember?
I was not sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was not sure at all. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no plan, no. I was just fresh out of college. I needed to start working. This appeared. I took it. They made an offer. I took it. I didn't think about it, and I went in. And I was like, you know what? It's just a job. If I didn't like it, I quit. I'll look for another one. It's not the end of the world. It will never be the end of the world. Like, your life is more important than your job. So that's the bare minimum. And I started as an intern. It was a UK company. It was all remote. We were doing education prizes. Maybe you've heard of it, the World's Best School Prize, and then the education medals for important educators. And then they also have a product, like a certification for schools to how do you say, to grade if the school is a good school to work in relation to the teachers. Like, is this a good employer for teachers or not? It was very interesting. I want you to see how shifty my road at T4 was. I was there for 2 years and a half. which is a lot for someone my generation, by the way. People are moving so quick from job to job, and you guys will move even quicker, I think. I started as a community engagement intern. I didn't know what that meant at all. I didn't understand what the company did. I just went in because I needed a job. Then I was like, okay, I can do this, and I can apply this to this, and I can learn this. And out of nowhere, I ended up I started doing softwares. Nowadays, when you use a software offer courses. Like, I don't know if you've heard about HubSpot. It's a CRM, a client relationship manager. It's a software. Don't worry about it. You will, in due time, learn about it. I started doing all the courses the software offered, the free ones at work. I just went to my manager and I was like, can I do this at work time? It's free. You don't have to do anything about it. And she was like, look, while you're doing your job, while you're like doing the tasks, do whatever you want with your other time. Okay, great. I started learning. And suddenly I became the only person in the company, it was a 15 people company, knowledgeable enough about this software. So they changed my role and they made me a tech and data executive. What does that mean? I don't know. Like, these were all so flimsy titles. I was like, what am I gonna do with this? I want to be a specialist. I want to, like, someone please tell me, like, you are an analyst. You are this. Like, please tell me what I am. And I was just like making up. I was making the titles as I went. It's like, okay, I guess I'll just put tech. I put data in there. And they were like, okay, yes. I mean, you know better. Okay. Then I started knowing more, and I started my master's in 2023. So in the second year of my job, I started my master's in business and technology. Why? Because I was like, I need more business skills. And I acknowledge that even if I know things of technology and business, my current degree doesn't account for that. The market, when they read my CV, they will not say, social sciences, she knows about business. No. So I had to have a title to validate my knowledge and to know more, to learn more, because you can never learn enough. So I started my degree. And with that, I was like gambling with a lot of different knowledge and skills. And my role in my job started shifting again. And I was like, marketing. But marketing, numbers marketing, like not social media. And marketing technology and marketing strategy. So they changed my role again. Like, these were all like mini promotions. I became a marketing technology strategist. That was my final role at T4. And I did that for a year. And I learned so much. And the problem was this was an all remote job. And I realized I had never had office experience. Like, I was starting to need people and to go out of my house. And yeah, I also was working in English. So I was not working on my mother tongue, my mother language. I was like, I don't know the Argentinian professional version of Anna. So I started looking for another job. I was like, I'm not going to quit. I'm not going through any bad at work. I'm just curious about other things, about other cultures. I'll start looking. If something comes, I will do it. And I find Seeds. Seeds has a community for the top 10% Latin American talent. And to get into the community, it's dedicated talent. And you to jobs. So I do interviews. Someone from Seeds itself writes to me, look, we are looking for a HubSpot, this software I was doing free courses of. Can you please come and do a part-time freelance project? And I was like, that's so funny. The one thing I didn't expect to ever monetize, to ever be like, I didn't expect anyone to look for me for something like this. And suddenly I was leveraging a skill I didn't even know I had. So I started doing this freelance after since I was working like very early hours. After I was done with that, I was doing the other job, the freelance job. And I went in and I was like, okay, this time I'm not going to be shy about myself. I'm not going to be scared about having the attention. So I was very talkative. I was saying a lot. And I started making a very good diagnosis. Like, look, it's not, you don't need a HubSpot technologies. You need something more aligned to change management, to how to manage digital transformation. So they were like, why don't you come in and do it yourself? And that's how they hired me full time. They hired me full time because they knew me and I suddenly had way more skills that they bargained for. And funny enough, I'm now as a senior operations strategist, but I'm on a lease from the marketing department because they value my interdisciplinarity so much that after I'm done with a specific operations project, they want me to go to the marketing department and they put that in a contract. So they have officialized the fact that I'm a generalist because I have a contract that has two roles in one. And this is my experience. And I think we have to move to questions time because we are very short of time.
Yeah,
But I
and
hope I can bring your ear off.
no, this is amazing, and we have a couple of questions that they're well. First of all, we have amazing comments that are sharing that they're finding this talk very inspiring. So thanks, Anita, for sharing your experience. And we have a couple of questions that revolve around the same topic, right? Which is basically, can a person be both a generalist and a specialist? And then someone is saying, yeah, like it's challenging, right? To find a job when you don't really know what you can specialize at. There's something I'd like to share, which is like we've been listening to Anna's experience, right, as a journalist. Sometimes also, and also Anna, you are a journalist. Although with
Yeah.
time you have found areas of interest for you where you have in a way specialized, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And in human resources, we call this a T-shaped profile. A T-shaped profile is precisely someone who is a generalist, right? Who knows a little bit about many different areas, topics, fields, and therefore is very valuable because this person can speak to different areas, right? And can follow different conversations. At the time, a T-shape means they also have the E form, right? We can see like a horizontal generalist aspect, and then an I shape, which creates a T. And this I shape is the specialization, right? So in this case, Anna has different, we can say, eyes, right? She has the marketing, the data, the tech, and therefore is, even if you imagine like a piece, right? Like it's something that can fit many places, right? Because whether you can use it as a generalist, and so this speaks to different fields, and then you have the I part, more specific. And this is also very interesting for those who are questioning themselves and saying, okay, am I a generalist? Am I a specialist? Depending also on the role and the career and the moment of your career you are, maybe you are at the moment being a specialist, right? Because you are working on a specific area for which you have developed a lot of knowledge and skills. And sometimes you may be doing something more general, right? Maybe you are a specialist in a very specific software program, tech aspect, and then later on, you transition in something more project management, more general, but you still have your expertise. So I think that's really important to balance and know, right? What do you think, Anna?
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. And again, this is not one or the other. As I mentioned, I hope that's what came through. It's just being able to live with what you are at that moment. And if you find yourself being a generalist, know how to market yourself and how to fit yourself in the market. If you're a specialist, great, know how to make the best out of that. And if you want to change, I see the questions. Like if you're a specialist and you want to become a generalist, it's just about learning more and maybe start considering jobs or roles that you weren't considering before, but you may say, like the core of this job maybe doesn't relate to me, but there's this angle that if I enter through that angle, I can make this for me and I can tailor it to me. And about the strategies of being a generalist, I think since it's a little bit right now harder in the market for a generalist, it's the way you can apply these strategies to be, whether even if you're a specialist, is knowing how to market yourself, knowing how to account for your own knowledge, knowing how to get all your experiences and skills together and decide how you shape all that mix, not the other way around. You do not let your experiences and knowledge talk for you. You talk for them and you frame them in the context you can make the most value out of it. So I think that's, you can apply the strategies to anything.
I'm writing this down. Can you repeat that? Do not let your experiences shape you, but I really like that idea.
Yeah, do not let your experiences shape and skills speak for you. You do the speaking for them. You choose how that knowledge and experience, you choose how you let them come up and in what way you leverage them in different situations.
I think this is amazing what you're saying, Anita, because precisely many times in career development, we think, okay, I like this, I'm kind of this fixed profile, right? I have these skills, I have this knowledge, therefore I am. What we're proposing is precisely, maybe there's another way, which is like how I can create this profile I like by being intentional in what skills, what knowledge I'm going to stand out at this present role. What else do I need to keep on learning? Maybe to shape a little bit and become more of this other profile I would also like to explore, right? So I think this is a very, very interesting takeaway. Can you share please on the chat one takeaway you're leaving from this session? Meanwhile, I have shared Anna's LinkedIn profile so you can connect with her. Remember, LinkedIn is a great networking tool, and remember to always send a message saying, hey, I participated at the webinar. It was very insightful what you shared. I'd love to be in touch with you. So we are intentional also in making connections through LinkedIn. And I have a lot of someone said, I like the idea that a generalist is an expert learner. So that's really, really nice. And well, this has been very inspiring, and we're reading this, Anita. I really love it. Thank you. This gave me some motivation and different perspective. And I think this has been a really enlightening webinar to really understand how we can, first of all, one takeaway for me is like there's no good or bad, there's no right and wrong. It's like these are different profiles and you can be intentional in how you shape your profile. Sometimes we can be more of a generalist, sometimes a specialist. You will see with your career how this plays out and how intentional you are in wanting to be more of one or the other. Also, we have this choice, right? We may say, yes, I want to specialize in this, and this is what I study, and this is where I want to go. And sometimes we may say, you know what, I have different interests, and I want to explore more of that. And career development is about development precisely. So nothing's fixed, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
Anita, anything else you'd like to share before we wrap up?
No, I'm grateful for this opportunity, grateful to get to people, and I hope it resonated with anyone in this session. And yes, you're more than welcome to write to me or anything. So thank you.
Thank you very much. It has been a pleasure for me having you. I'm so happy. And this has been a wonderful, very insightful webinar. So thank you everyone for joining. Thanks a lot. And I guess I'll see you again soon, and have a wonderful day everywhere, everyone, wherever you are in the world. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.